Okay, so for session 3, we're going to be talking about social media. A lot of what I'm trying to do is to just give you a taste of all these things. I'm not trying to go in really depth on all these different social media sites. They're not very technically challenging, most of them. So I think you would be, I'm not having too much trouble figuring them out later on. So mainly I want you to understand some of the differences, why you would use some versus others for different purposes, how sites are kind of intended to be used, and stuff like that. So this is one view of social media in churches. And as always, I want to remind those of you who have not yet fanned our church on Facebook to do so. I've practically heard those words.
Yeah.
And the other is, Father, I have sinned. And the priest is on Facebook, I already know. So do people actually use social media? Is the first question. Because we want to use social media, and frankly the reason is because that's where people go on the internet. So the interesting things in these numbers, this is from the UA, is how, and this is actually from Pew Research originally, how some of the older demographic, if you look here, this is 65 plus, and it's still nearly 50% are on social media. And the reasons are pretty obvious. They want to engage with their grandchildren and their children. And if you want to see pictures of your grandchildren, guess what? I can't honestly tell you the last time I ever printed hard copy photos. Ever. I mean, 10 years, at least. We all use digital cameras. We all use iPhones. And it's a lot easier to put them up on social media, and it's a lot cheaper. And then you can share it with lots of people all at once. That's why we use it. And it's not just the younger generation. That's why I focus on the 65 plus. And then if you go down to 50 to 64, it's even higher. Now, admittedly, as you get younger, it's more people. You would expect that. But it's not only the young people in your congregation that are using these social media sites. And you can see, specific to UUA, again, it does tend to be relatively younger, but the largest number of people is actually middle age. I honestly fit into that middle largest group, that we are the ones who are using it. So before you go down the road, we're going to do social media, you need to figure out what's your plan. Why are we going to do this? Who's going to manage and contribute to the social media? Figure out the who. What do you consider success? So what are your goals? So, and a good example of this is we're going to do an event. We're going to do a concert series that we're going to host in our church, but it's going to be open to the community. So we want to get the word out. So, what would constitute success? I would maybe argue the number of people who attend the event. It could be instead how many people come in the door of your church. It could be how many people are liking your page. I don't think that's an inherently great goal, but maybe that is part of it, because then later communications, they're likely to see if they've liked your page. That's why that would be a goal. You're going to have to develop a social media policy. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth on what that would have. There's an example on our site. The UUA has a section under communication that also talks about what you might want to put into that policy. What specific content are you going to put up there? And who do you need to create that content? We're going to talk a lot about pictures today. So, coming up with your own original content is going to require you to have some people that can do photos, maybe even videos. How do you want to publicize your social media? Because people aren't going to know that it exists in some cases unless you have a way to tell them. So this might be your newsletters. This might be an email list that you maintain today, where you need to, on a regular basis, reinforce how do people get to your social media and what forms of social media are you using online. so that then they go on there and then share it out with other people. And that's how you spread your word online. And how are you going to get everything to work together? All right, we're going to have like 10 different social media things. That seems like a lot of work. And I'm only going to touch on that a little today, but we're going to be talking more about that on our last day on day 5. So, if all else fails, go for the babies. Pictures of babies are always popular. So this actually is a picture from just 2 weeks ago. You might recognize Melissa and Evan there with Ryan. And what I would point out to you is how this reached 1,200 people when it was posted. And it got 133 likes. This is your challenge to beat that. Because it's not easy, actually, especially unless you're a huge congregation, then they might be very easy. But for a middle-sized or smaller congregation, getting 1,200 people to see something and 133 to say they like it, not to like it. But the real key message here is that it engaged people's hearts, not their heads. This is not a situation where your words are going to be as effective as a picture. People shared this because it made them feel good. It doesn't have to make them feel good. You can make them feel really bad, and sometimes they'll show that too. If something really horrible is happening in the world, you have a truly striking image that hits people in the gut, that can also be effective. But 9 times out of 10, you want to go with a positive image that people like, you want to share and spread.
What was the thing about GA? I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the other thing I pointed out, so this picture, you can probably not read, but I can read. It's on June 26th that it was posted. This is the start of GA, okay? This was the spike in traffic for the UU Kent Facebook site. And this was the end of GA. So this actually demonstrates that events like our Summer Institute right now, General Assembly, they're actually really useful for social media because it's, in many cases, how people see what's going on if they're not there. So a lot of things get shared. We saw a huge spike in traffic during the General Assembly because we were engaging with our congregation while we were at General Assembly. It wasn't as good as being there, but it made some people feel like they're more integrated. And that can be true as much in your own congregation, that they couldn't come that Sunday, but at least they got a flavor maybe of what the topic was. You can post, pictures maybe that are somehow related to the theme of that sermon, and then try to get a dialogue going. Trolls.
What do you mean get a dialogue going?
One of the things that social media allows is you to have a conversation with others. And especially, let's say your service somehow went into some kind of different world. Or it could be a number of things. I remember my minister, one of her most challenging services was ever about school shootings. That was one of those auction items that she had to then speak to. The person who won the auction got to pick the topic.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so that kind of topic can really cause people to want to have a conversation. A lot of times our services are generally one way, right? Our coffee hour isn't, but our services do tend to largely be one way. Social media is not. It's an opportunity for your minister and your lay leaders and everybody to engage with each other on these topics. Trolls. Okay. So this is a term you might not be familiar with, but it's a common term. And it describes people who are very negative on the internet and in many cases say very disparaging things. Things that are untrue, things that are hurtful. I'm not talking about the normal run-of-the-mill stuff that we see in any organization. On the internet, it goes to a new level. There are truly deplorable things said, especially about women, online, on YouTube, and in message boards. And there's a lot of negative activity. block someone so that you never have to see them again. And if you see an outsider who's posting negative things in response to stuff you're posting on Twitter or Facebook, ignore them, block them, and just move on. And encourage other people to do so as well. Encourage other members, don't engage, just forget. That's the only way to deal with it on the internet. It's a huge public relations nightmare if you do engage with them. There have been many famous situations of celebrities who began to basically argue back at negative things that people were saying about them, about their weight, about all sorts of other things, that it never ends well. And what you're actually doing is giving them a pulpit that you don't want to. And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. So one of the important things in social media is this idea of sharing and liking, and in Twitter we call it retweeting. And it's a way for you to spread somebody else's message. And it's very important for you to realize that you can do that for the organizations that aren't your own, but that you support. And in turn, they may and probably will do it for you. So, retweet articles from UU World, or Standing on the Side of Love, or Amnesty International, or Greenpeace, or any number of other organizations that you believe you would support. It's especially, the Greenpeace might actually not be a good example if you were doing it as your church. I probably would maybe retweet that. It might be a little too political, depending on your congregation. But it's similar with, political partisan messages, who vote for stuff like that. We don't do that. We want to be inclusive. But Standing on the Side of Love is a clear example where you absolutely can and should retweet those if, you want to. And that can then help you when you want to spread your message, when you're trying to get your message out into the world. I've had several cases where things that we've put out on Twitter have been picked up and retweeted by the national UU groups, and then lots of people see it. And that's one of those things that you don't want to, it's not a case where you get to keep score, well, I did it, so you have to do it. It doesn't work that way. It's like the quote, it's just about put more positive love out into the world and it'll come back. But don't expect it necessarily, it might not. Don't feel bad though asking someone if they would retweet something. And don't think that this has to just be you. This could be a community organization, maybe a community garden that you want to support. Or maybe you could get one of those groups to retweet one of your messages about an upcoming event that complements their mission. So you want to think bigger than you want to think bigger than your congregation, and how you can like their stuff and retweet their stuff, and how therefore they can do the same for you. Content. I've already talked about this, but you need to go with pictures. You really need to come up with a picture, either from a stock site or your own pictures, put some words on top of the image, and use that when you're sending these things out. Because people are vastly more likely to engage and read your message. If you give them a paragraph of text, they will not read it. They just will not. It is a fact on social media. And that is why, if you go on Facebook, you're going to see a lot of images. I have a lot of good examples you're going to see coming up. Okay, so here's one example. I know the text is a little small for you guys to read, but this is called an infographic. This is an infographic about social media, so we're very meta here. This gives you a lot of information, which you can see is very visual. It's very colorful. If you were to put all that in bullet points, there's no chance that someone would read it. None. And there's a lot of these, and I have a few other examples I can show you later. But this is actually talking about things we're going to talk about today. And then we're going to talk about a few others. Pinterest, which is very image-oriented. Twitter, which is very publicly oriented. Facebook, which is all about friends and groups. Instagram, which is also a lot about pictures. is much more about coming up with a board of pins, a board of images. So it's more like curated. I'll give you an example. I personally, will admit, I don't use Pinterest a lot, but one of my friends uses it before any kind of birthday party or any kind of event she's having with people coming over and she wants to really, have cool decorations and stuff like that. She will look on Pinterest, and as she sees things that, oh, that might be interesting for Christmas, that might be interesting for Thanksgiving, my daughter's birthday, and she'll throw it into a board of ideas. It could be for a vacation. In Twitter, it's very public. It's very easy for any of us to post with / $, which is the ampersand, not the ampersand, it's the pound. And that, and you. And if you put that in your message, it will be seen by thousands of UUs, pretty much guaranteed. And it basically gives everyone that soapbox. Anyone can post that, including the trolls, which is why you have to just block them and ignore them. Because they have every bit as much right to the system and to post on that tag as you do. And so you just have to block them and ignore them and move on. Facebook, it's the worst because it's all about money.
Wait a minute.
Yes. We're going to go in more depth. We're going to go in depth on each of these. Don't worry. Facebook, it's been turned into a serious business. And much of the way that you get your word out and you're posting by people now is you have to pay for that privilege. And that is why, in my opinion, it is one of the worst social media networks, but it is also the one that has the most people. You can see that it has over 1 billion active users.
I'm finding there's lots of ads now. Everything.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes.
Ads.
Yes.
And right from here, I want to see my nieces.
Yes, but with over 400 million people, Google Plus isn't too far behind that and doesn't have that. LinkedIn is generally not as useful for us because it's very oriented to business. It's basically where you post your resume today in this century. And Instagram is used, in my son's words, it's all about the selfies. Especially teenagers love to take pictures of themselves and their friends doing different things at different places, and Instagram is their favorite way to get those pictures out. So here's another good visual thing that you'll see on social media. This is called a word cloud. There are sites that have these engines that you can feed a service into. You can take your minister's Sunday service, feed it into a word cloud engine. I just Google word cloud, and it will give you something like this back that you could throw out on social media. It looks for, it ignores a lot of the, the words that are meaningless, but it tries to mathematically distill it down into a series of words. Here's another one.
Does it take script or can it take audio?
Words.
Word.
Text.
It needs text.
So here's another example. This is, as you can see, if you can read the bottom, this is actually one of the series that my own church has used. That it has a very nice moving poem, but we also have a little bit of political publicity here. That's not by accident. This is something that we put out there to get our name out and for people to associate positive things with us. Because what often happens is, let's say we put this out as the church, many of our members are going to like it when they see it in Facebook. And that means that their friends who have not liked our fan page, have maybe never even heard of us, now they have a larger chance of seeing that.
Okay, how much of that I know right away, that's from your church, the image, the graphic.
Where did we get it?
Pardon?
Are you asking where we got it?
No, that, you got that from your church, correct?
You created it, yeah.
Yeah, because you have a person, or I just want one.
You just want one of those?
No, what I'm trying to get at is, you have an image up there.
Yes. Where
I assume you own the image.
It's up beside photo, it's Rebecca.
I understand that, but what I'm trying to say is, that's the connection to your church. That's always our concern, which is where is something coming from?
Yes.
Can we use it?
Yes, I'm going to get to that in a few slides.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. There are lots of sources, and
Yeah.
I have a few specific UU sources listed here, but there are others online.
Okay.
So if you're going to go with quotes, have the quote over a picture, especially around, let's say, President's Day. This might be a very timely thing to throw there out into the internet because people are thinking about that. July 4th, you're going to have a lot of flags out there. You know, I mean, people are thinking about the holiday and are more likely to share that kind of stuff. Here's another black and white. Again, engaging picture, and then a quote by a minister, and then it has our contact information.
So who does those? Do you do these for the church, or do you have somebody assigned job to be the Facebook person?
We have a group of people. It's kind of like a committee. We don't have to meet in person. This is one of those things where, you know, it's virtual. So we tend to talk more email and through social media ourselves on getting these things out. And it's not as structured as it might sound. When people have time and they like to do this, they will take these. But there are a number of these at the sources that I'm going to show you where you don't have to create it. Now, what you might want to have is someone who knows how to add the text on top of it, the overlay, which isn't particularly difficult, but it's not something I'm going to be trying to teach today. But it's something that is not horribly difficult to do. You see, we've done quite a few of these. Here's another example. We have an annual auction, service auction that we do for our church. So we have a number of artists in our community, and we always have them come up with a, you know, original artwork, and then we use that in our social media. We use that in our, you know, paper advertising for the event. And again, this has a lot of text and information, but it's in the image. People are much more likely to see this and actually read this than they would if that same text had just been posted by itself. Now, here's what I was promising. And of course, you guys have this online, so you don't have to write this down now. But I'll click very quickly on some of these just to show you what they look like. I want to kind of try to follow this. I only know what to do one at a time, that's fine. Okay, so here's the UU world. So you can see here's a lot of, you know, really cool pictures. People who are much better at photography than I am from the event. And then this is, look at that. I mean, that's a very visually striking image. And you could combine a lot of different text with this of your own. And of course, the UU world is very comfortable with UU congregations using their material, and they own it. And the same is true for a lot of, so the UU stock photo footer, yes, they have a lot of material as well. And this is designed and intended for use by congregations. That's why it exists. And you see here, here's one example, I'll just click on it. This is where our congregation got a lot of these pictures. We didn't have to take the photos. We didn't have to come up with the quotes. All we did was add our contact information onto it and then posted it out as ourselves on Facebook.
So all the people in the photos have already given permission
Yes.
to
Yes.
distribute the image
Yes.
and for anyone to use.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's great.
there's also sites like Wikimedia Commons, where everything that's posted to Wikimedia Wikimedia, not Wikipedia, it's
Yeah.
Wikimedia. Wikimedia is another site where people post photos with the intention that other people can use it. Now, it will say on there what the license is if there is any. Most often, it's attribution, that you don't remove the attribution that is already often embedded into the photo, which is a very reasonable request.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually they're not intending to make money off of it. There are other sites where you can pay for photos. There's a lot of stock, just Google stock photo, and you'll see a lot of companies that for $10, $15 you can get really beautiful photography. So here's standing on the side of love. So I mean, if you're looking again, these are very visually colorful, striking images.
Hold on a second, I think I just saw my daughter.
Yes, you did.
Where?
Right here.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Oh, yeah.
Right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She goes to all these things.
She's famous. She's famous. Well,
She's
then
in the
you have a very good reason to try to use that photo.
Yeah. That's funny.
Because members of your congregation would likely recognize her.
That's neat.
And then there is a Facebook page, the UU Media Works community, where people create these works and put them up there for other people to then use. This is a community that's coming up slowly. Facebook apparently is not happy with me about my comments earlier, I'm guessing, about how they've sold out. But I can actually see, our former moderator, Elaine, liked this already today. A number of people in my church that do the social media stuff.
Oh, that's nice.
See?
Neighbor.
Exactly. And you see, that's what, this was a GA. And you see here, remember that site? I just showed you that picture
Yeah.
on the Flickr site. And that's what this site is
So you just hit share
where you can,
from
or
as an administrator.
what we would be more likely to do is to get the original picture off Flickr, add our overlay, and then post it as a new post out as our church. And then hopefully our members would then be liking and forwarding, and that's how you get the viral message out with your branding, if that's your goal. Not our goal.
With your what?
With your branding on it.
Oh,
With
your brand?
Yeah, with the name of your church, the website, whatever it is you're trying to, what your goal is.
So you can put your name, the name of your church on these photos?
That's what
and
all those
send
pictures
it-
were.
And send it out as for your church?
Yes, that's what these are intended for.
How do you do the overlay just like, is it
So
in?
this is an example. This picture here is also from that same Flickr site, all this is from them. This is what we added right here.
And did you, how do you do that? I mean, just
Yeah.
real briefly,
It would be a little more involved. I'd have to.
No, but I mean, like, somebody gets into.
A visual, a graphic editor,
Oh, correct.
and you add a layer, and you add the text in that
Okay,
layer.
okay.
And my question was, and you have removed what was there?
No, there was
Oh,
no.
it was there.
It was up at the top, like it is now. This was already there.
Yes, no,
The
what
photo
about
was
the
there,
attribution?
this
That's
was
this
added.
one. Okay, but if that had somebody else's attribution on it, I'm calling it.
In this case, the text was at the bottom, so we added ours at the top.
Right. But that didn't come from a place where there was already saying, you had one before that wasn't a UU.
Yeah. As long
Okay, yeah,
as
yeah.
long as it's released with license and something's already on there, you're good.
Okay, and you can remove what's there and play
You're
with their.
generally adding. You're only adding usually. You're not usually removing anything. But usually there's plenty of space on the image for you to add. So-
See,
Maybe I
you
made
like
my-
the face, the one with the face is not.
That may be it. There was one, that we had.
Okay.
And you probably
Don't
got
worry
that
about
one from Rebecca
It's all right.
Renner, right? It looked,
This
it
one?
was way back, no, it was way back at the beginning. It was the one with the, that one, isn't that what?
This also came from the same source.
Really? So Rebecca's posting her stuff up the side? She's the drummer here. Rebecca Renner, she's the acting church.
This came through that same UU that UU
It
site.
came from the UU place, and you
Do that,
removed the UU thing that was on.
No, there
No,
was-
you didn't, okay.
No, there was nothing to remove. We
Okay.
only added. Oh, okay. Okay, so another thing that you often find is you don't want to put a really long URL on these things. You want something people can type in. So there are what are called link shorteners. If you've never seen these before, tiny URL, bit.ly, Google. I'll click on Google. I often use this one, so do I actually have a list of some of my URLs. When I want to send someone a really long URL, this one's like 200 characters. It turns it into this little bitty amount of text. This little link is all that people have to enter, and it will take them to that long link. So using link shorteners is advised on anything that, especially it comes into play with these images, because you're not going to be able to click on that necessarily. They're going to see it, they're going to see the link, because it's embedded in the photo, it's part of the photo. So they're going to have to type it in. So having something shorter is a lot easier for people to type in than something really long. So if you're not planning to have something that someone can just click on, I would advise using something like this, and then it just gives you these short little things that people can, and you can do it for maps, you can do it for files, you can do it for web pages, anything.
I was wondering how Twitter gets those or.
Yes, and T.co is their own, that they automatically will apply if you put a link in past a certain length. But by using the Google or the bit.ly or there's a number of others out there, this also shows me how many times has someone clicked on this. I can see exactly when they used it, and it even gives me one of these that I can put on a page, and people who have a cell phone can scan it's called a QR code. They can scan this, and it also takes them to that same page. This image, this digital image can be read by a cell phone as easily as you can type this in. It goes to the same place. But that's actually not my favorite way to do QR codes. My favorite is this site. And because you can give it a little image, and it will create a QR code taking that image plus the URL that you want it to go to. And it mathematically figures out a way to get it in there. So you see this, for example, if you use your cell phone, it will take you to the front page of the UU Camp website. You can put this in your lines of service. You can put this up on a sign, on a poster.
Oh my goodness,
And it can go to anywhere you like. It can be any image you like.
that's so cool.
Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit more Facebook. So it's great because it's immediate. It's got the most number of people. One of the things I would advise is do not create accounts that aren't people. That's not what they're intended for. You don't want your children's choir to be an account in Facebook. Everyone should have their own account. Your account is how you log into Facebook. It's who you are. There are other ways to be organizations and groups, and that's how you should use it. That's how Facebook is intended to be used. So you log in as, I log in as myself, but then I switch to being switch over to being the Kent Church. I have my own account, and I can post on the Kent page as myself, or on the Kent page as the Kent Church, depending on what I'm doing and why. But you shouldn't have a generic minister account. Each minister should have their own Facebook account. Fan pages is how you express an organization on Facebook. It's an institutional, public persona website. It's not closed in any way. It's not intended to be. It's intended to be just as public as your website. And you should think of it very much like that. It's similar to how you wouldn't want to have 5 websites for your church. You don't want to have 5 fan pages for your church. I would highly recommend that you have 1 fan page for your church and concentrate your message. Because you want people to like your fan page. If they got 5, they have to like 5 or they won't get all 5 messages if you post a message on different things. If you have 1 fan page and all the things for all the different groups are being posted onto that 1 fan page, people are more likely to see it and more likely to like it because they like it in one of the parts of your church. You can create events as yourself, but you can also create events as the fan page. And so you can create a camping trip, a concert series. You can create those events as events in Facebook, and then people who liked your fan page are going to see that in Facebook. And if they go into events, what?
I don't know what an event is.
I can show it to you.
It's just,
So we're live on Facebook, so hopefully my friends are on their best behavior. But I'm going to go to events. We'll see if there's anything up there. Yes, there are a few. I don't know where these are coming from. But yeah, I think this is more like maybe paid advertising down the bottom. And it's saying none, but you can host your own. So if I create an event, it's going to ask, what's the name, what are the details, what's the address, when is it, you can put a time, and who do you want to invite? Do you want to just add some of your own personal friends because it's a birthday party, or do you want to make it public, or open invite, so all our people I invite, but then they can invite, so it can spread that way. Usually you are probably doing public events if you're doing it as a fan page. Now there I was doing it as myself. But I'm going to go and become the church. So I'm going to our fan page. And it says, right here at the top, you're posting, commenting, and liking as Dan Florida. Change to your church account.
Where
At the very top. It's hard to read. This is why it's easier to follow. But you wouldn't be able to click on this. It's at the very top banner, and I can switch back and forth. So now, if I post something, if I create an event, if I do anything, I'm doing it as the church. It'll say, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent invites you. It wouldn't say name. And then you can create events, you can do posts, you can do photos. And you can see here's that one that I was telling you about before. Let's see what we're up to now. It doesn't say here how many people. Probably says, it probably says in the post for this put up. But we did a video. Melissa was speaking at the General Assembly about an national immediate witness for religious immigration. I took a video of it and threw it right up there on Facebook, and then a lot of people saw it. So again, best foot forward for our congregation that we're actually trying to do things. So you can, before you set up a fan page, you want to make sure that people know that you're going to do this, because this is something that it needs to be somewhat official. That this is going to be the fan page groups on Facebook. Now, groups and fan pages aren't exactly the same thing. Fan page is this public persona. A group is a club. That's the best description I can give you. You join a club, but you like an organization maybe. You might join the organization, in which case you might join a group. So if you're joining something, you're joining a group. If you like something, you're liking a fan page. Fan pages are the way that you publicly get announcements. Groups are how you can have more in-depth, perhaps more private conversations. Now, everyone has a different feeling about what they're willing to share on social media, and that's entirely their decision. Some people may not be comfortable sharing anything personal on social media. So the fan pages, they're definitely not going to share anything there that's personal. In a group, they might be more willing to. There are settings for groups: open, closed, and secret. And they affect what can be seen by people who are not members and how you can become a member. And that's what this table on the next page kind of walk you through. So if it's open, anybody can just join, and they're in now, because it's an open group. If it's closed, you have to ask to be joined. And someone then, one of the admins, has to approve you to be added. There's a number of UU lab groups that are on Facebook, Social Media Lab, Website Lab. They do a closed group. So anybody can see that the group exists, but in order to get in, you have to request to be added, and then they quickly, are likely to add you unless you're a troll. Secret means nobody knows that it exists. You have to invite someone in, otherwise no one even knows that this group exists. This is what is often used if people feel comfortable doing small group ministries on Facebook. They create a secret group, and then they invite all the members of that child's group into that secret group, and then they can maybe continue some of their conversations throughout the week or throughout the month between when they meet as a group. A lot of this is, beyond that, is who can see what, who can see the name. Anybody can see the open and closed, only current and former members can see the name of a secret group. Same with the description. And there's tags, pretty much the same. Who can see what members post in the group? So this is a case where in open, anybody, even if I am not a member of the group, I can see what people have posted in the group because it's open. I could join on a whim anyways. But if it's closed, I can't see anything that's been posted until I'm a member. And again, who can find if you search, and who can see stories about that. So that's in your timeline in Facebook. Are you able to see the stories that are coming from that group? So one of the easy things is to create a group. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now, and then you guys, I'm going to create it now, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to figure out all of our names. UU, OMD, SI, Church 2.0. And I'm going to say it's closed. So that means you will be able to search for this, and then I would have to accept you. So I'm not going to have to add you. You will be able to later on, and this is part of your homework assignment, is to look for this group and to request to be